YieldMax MSTY still closing above $16. But stick around, we're going to take a look at MSTR and find out what could be holding MSTY back. And then we'll get an update on ULTY and CONY. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at MSTY and we're going to look at MSTR just to see what could be holding MSTY back. And let's just go ahead and go right over to the charts and get started. All right, here we are on the actual candle chart of MSTY, and you can see it did close at 1604. So we are still closing above that $16 mark. That's a positive sign for us. It did go down from yesterday's close, right? Because yesterday's close was 1620 and today we closed at 1604. So it did go down for the day, but we are still staying above that 16. Not sure if it's going to stay above the 16, as you'll see when we take a look at MSTR, what that big hurdle is for MSTR. And of course, if it's holding MSTR back, it's holding MSTY back as well. But as you can see, I do have my lines drawn in here, and this bottom one being our bottom support line, right? That's at the bottom where we did dip down and hit 1484. And then since we have been moving up a little bit at a time. I then had this line as a resistance line, right? At 1582, as that's where it was touching on these candles here. And I'll zoom in. As you can see, it did hit here and got rejected, and over here as well, right? It hit that point and then got rejected. So I'm using this as my resistance line, and we did open and close above it yesterday. So that made it our support line, right? But today, what happened? We actually went down slightly below it, but then came back up, right? So we still closed above it. So this line here is still our support line because of this candle right here. It did open and close with a green candle above that previous resistance line. So this is our support line at this 1582. So we definitely want MSTY to stay above that, right? If not, then we're going to be coming back down and we could be testing this 1484. Now, of course, the buying and selling of MSTY is not really affecting the candles much, right? What really affects MSTY is where Mr. sets, right? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it going sideways, right? That's what's really going to change and affect what's going on with MSTY. But like I said, I still do like to draw my lines on MSTY here. And you can see the momentum is increasing. We are still separating out on that MACD. So we are still looking pretty positive. But yet we have that red candle, right? And I'll show you on Mr. why that is. But before we go there, let's go ahead and flip this over to the adjusted chart and let's see what that momentum of MSTY looks like just in the past couple weeks here. All right, so here we are on the adjusted chart, and you can see it was pretty much trading sideways, right? Looks like we had somewhat found a bottom, right? Found a new bottom, I should say. But it has been moving up ever so slightly. And of course, now we're closing at that 1604 for the weekend. I still have my 475 shares with my $16 put at $16 even for January the 16th, along with my covered call that expired today and is a $25 cover call that expired today. And since MSTY did not get above $25, it did not take my shares away, right? So this contract here, come Monday, it will be gone. It is already dead, but it won't actually remove that window right here until Monday morning when they refresh the account. So that will leave me with my 475 unused shares, right? Because then that 100 shares will end up going back to this pot right here to 475. And if I decide to sell another call, I can do so. And maybe I'll look to do that next week if we can get some momentum moving up so that I can get some premium, right? But we'll just have to wait to see what next week brings us for that. And I've still got time on my put, right? I've got until January 16th. So now let's just go ahead and slide right over to MSTR. All right, so here we are on MSTR, or what I like to call it, Mr. And you can see the chart looks very similar to MSTY, right? We're trading sideways right through here, and we have started moving up. But there's something that's not showing here that can help us to see what's going on in these past couple of days. And to find out what that is, we'll turn on the moving average. And there we go. Now we're showing the moving average. Now it's starting to paint a little bit of a different picture, right? You're starting to see what's going on. You see these candles here. They're starting to move up, right? You've got this RSI. The green one is a 5-day moving average, and it's 5-day because we are on the day chart, right? So that's a 5-day moving average. And the blue line, that's a 20 MA, right? And do notice both those candles are right in between that 20 MA and the big red line. And that's the brick wall, right? That red line right here, that's the brick wall. That's the MA 200. That's the big boy right there. That's the one we've got to get past. And I told you on the last video, that is not going to be easy, right? Because it is going to get pushed down and it's going to get knocked down because Mr. is being shorted and trying to get that price on down, right? So you can see yesterday we did break past it, but we came back down, closed just underneath it, right? And today we opened a little on the lower side than where we closed yesterday. As we opened today at 347.45, we went as high as 352.92 and as low as 337.07, right? And that 337, that is right there close to that MA20. So it could be using a little bit of this MA20 as a support as well. Now that's a great sign, right? If we can stay on that as a support, then that's going to help us to bounce off of this 20 and continually to hit this MA 200. And each time we hit it, we are just chipping away at those sellers, right? Each time we hit it, we chipping away. And before you know it, we go through all those sellers and then we break through. Now, if we can break past and get Mr. on back above this MA 200, then my hope is that it can stay above that MA 200 and then use it as a support line rather than right now being a resistance line. And as you can see, I do have some shares of MSTR. I have 16 shares and my average is about 355.46, right? And that is just above that MA 200 because the MA 200 currently is sitting at 354.10. So that is the number that we need to break. So I'm hoping come next week, we can get some momentum building up. And as you can see, that momentum is building. And that's also kind of interesting, right? We've got this green momentum here that is increasing, right? It's increasing, but yet we had red volume, right? That's very interesting. You've got all those sellers in here, but yet you're having the momentum increase on the positive side. So if we can continually get this momentum to grow and build, that just gets us a little bit stronger and we can break through that MA 200 and we can start moving this thing on back up. And of course, if Mr. is moving on back up, what is it going to carry with it? You got it. It's going to carry all of my MSTY friends and myself on up in price. And that would be a lovely day. But I'm sure I'll get those comments saying how, oh, look, MSTY fell again. There it goes. You're red. Losing money again. But you've got to look at the picture. Why is it red? Well, it's red because of this right here on Mr., right? Because it is hitting that 200 MA. And that 200 MA is no joke. right? That's no joke. That is going to be a tough one to break through. But once we can get through it, it would be great if we can stay above it and use it as a support and then move Mr. on up and drag MSTY along with it. So now let's just go ahead and check out ULTY while we're here. All right, so here we are on ULTY, and you can see we had another nice little green day, $5.67 for the close. Now, why is that significant, right? Why is going up just 5 cents so significant? Well, I'll tell you why. There's a few reasons, right? My own personal one would be, my average being 566, it's now 567. Hooray, hooray! My average is under the current price, right? That's a small win there for me, but that's okay. That's not the important reason. The important thing here is, on Wednesday, we got that announcement, right, of MSTY paying that 9 cents. And that close on Wednesday was 565, right? It closed at 565. Well, on X date, that 9 cents comes out of the price of the stock, and that drops it down at least 9 cents, right? But of course, after hours, things can move. It could go further down. It could go up. It just all depends on what's going on in the market after hours or pre-market, right? But from 565 close on Wednesday to the open of 559. So right there, it actually only dropped 6 cents, right? From the close to the open, right? And then we captured that much that day. And then what we do today, we moved up even further, right? So just in the movements, right? Just in the movement of the pricing, we have captured back that price drop to pay out that distribution. And that is what we need the YieldMax ETFs to do. When it pays out those distributions, we need it to move back up in price, recover what it paid out. I don't care what it's paying out, right? If it's 9 cents or 29 cents, right? It needs to recover that before the next distribution. If it can do that, then there's no erosion to it, right? Because whatever they're paying you, it comes out of the price of the stock. But if it goes up and recovers that amount or more before the next distribution, then there is no erosion to it, right? You've recovered that loss in the price, if you want to say it that way. And that's what we need the YieldMax ETFs to do. So way to go, ULTY, for recapturing and getting that price back up to the price of where it was before the X date. You have to be a little excited about that. That's a great move. And honestly, if you look even back at the past distribution, it did it here as well, right? Where it closed at 559, opened on X date at 551, and then on Friday, it was up to 557. So that almost captured all of that right back. But by Monday, you definitely got that price back, right? So that means it's not eroding, right? And to show you what I mean in a graph wise, we'll flip it to the adjusted chart, because the adjusted chart shifts for those distributions and shows you more of the momentum of that stock, right? Taking out the noise of the distributions. So it will shift those charts fully by those distributions, right? So each time it gets shifted down, right? So therefore on the adjusted chart, you can't really look at the price. It is more of the movement of the stock candles themselves, right? Is it overall moving up in the momentum of that stock? So let's flip that over to the adjusted chart here. And we'll just click this, then adjust it, and there we go. And look at this. Now that is awesome, right? That is awesome. Again, this is not the real chart, right? This is not the actual chart. This is the adjusted chart. So you cannot pay attention to the numbers, right? The values, because this says 569 here, and this shows all the way down to a low of 516, but that's not true, right? So the adjusted chart, you cannot pay attention to the numbers. It is more of a visual, right? So you can use the adjusted chart for more of the technical analysis using the indicators. And that is what we're looking for, the momentum, right? And you can see, look at that MA5. Look at that thing. Woo, nice, right? Just riding that thing right on up. That MA20, which is the blue line, we're getting a nice turn on that, and it's moving up. And the MA50, look at this. That's the orange line. Just a nice trend going straight up right here. So everything is looking good for ULTY. Yes, we are still below $6. But what is the picture of the movement of the stock itself? The movement or the momentum is moving upward, right? That is a good sign, because that means that even though you're getting paid out those distributions, the overall momentum of the stock is increasing. And that is what is awesome. For it going sideways or up in a YieldMax ETF, that is what we're looking for. If it goes down, we don't mind if it goes down some, but a lot of these have been going down more than anybody likes. But I think we might be seeing a bit of a change. At least that's what I'm hoping for, right? So super excited about ULTY and glad that I got in. And as you can see, I have 150 shares at 566 for my average. And that's my purchase average. That is not my adjusted average. As I do not drip, I capture my distributions to help reduce my risk. And the last one we're going to take a quick look at is CONY. And here we are on CONY. Check this out. This is pretty interesting too, right? We are somewhat within this range right here, right? We've got this resistance line right here, and we've got this little support line right down here. And it is respecting that support line, but it is coming down to try to test it, but then popping back up. And that's great, right? We would just like to make sure that it does stay either within this area or move on up. Wouldn't mind that at all. You can see I have 245 shares at an average of $12.05 per share. And that is my purchase price. Again, that is not my adjusted share price, which does take into account my distributions, because I am not dripping my distributions. I am capturing to help reduce my risk that I have invested in CONY and any of these YieldMax ETFs. And once I've got that paid back, then I'll be using house money to earn distributions. So then it just becomes a complete win-win for me. I just about cannot lose at that point. So that is my goal for all of these YieldMax ETFs. And I know it's not the popular goal, but that is how I am playing these YieldMax ETFs. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. Pretty excited about some of the moves today. I love how Mr. is continually to chip away at this MA200. That is an exciting moment. If we can get past that, man, oh man, I would love to see Misty moving on back up, as I know you would too. So if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, smash the like button, it'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.